The HCPC has a bit of a love-hate relationship when it comes to international applications for all of us, and in today's video we are going to be talking about some of the updates that are going to impact you if you are already registered with the HCPC or if you are somebody who is considering to come to the UK as a healthcare professional. But before we move ahead, let me remind everybody, my name is Nikita and I make videos about coming to the UK, working as a healthcare professional, clearing those interviews to land that dream job that you want. And if any of this is of interest to you, do not forget to drop me a subscribe, but also follow me on Instagram. My handle is Physiotherapy in UK. So let's come into one of the first updates about HCPC. The super biggest update that has obviously come out is everybody who is registered with the HCPC receiving an email like this, which says that they've updated their standards of proficiency, and that is going to impact you. But what does that mean? It just means that obviously, as you all know, for different professions, there are some standards of proficiency, and this is not news. But what happens is HCPC keeps reviewing the ever-changing conditions that exist in practice and keeps updating their standards in order to make sure that these standards are now in line with some of the patients that we see or the clinical situations that we face. And so HCPC has decided to review and update some of these standards. Now, again, I would just say that please do not get scared. Do not panic if you receive this email. You are not the only one. All of us who are registered with HCPC have received an email similar to this. So let's talk through what are the updates. The first thing that you need to remember is if you come to a screen like this, and I'll leave the link for this again in the description below, is you will come to a web page where obviously HCPC describes all of its revised standards of conduct, performance and ethics. Now again, this review was conducted in the earlier part of this year, and this webinar was released on the 24th of June, which has super information about this topic. So again, if you want to go ahead, do your own reading, I'd highly recommend checking out this webinar to get a bit more understanding about it. But what you've got to remember is that these 10 standards are the ones that have now got updated. So in any of these standards, there would be some sub-standards or some sub-action points for us as healthcare professionals in the UK that we were meant to be following. Some of them have obviously left unchanged, but some of them HCPC has either updated or they've added new sub-standards as a part of this 10 standards of proficiency for each profession. Now, if you are concerned about what they are, I'm again going to pull up a PDF like you can see right here. This goes through all of the standards of proficiency that are in question, what has been changed, what has been unchanged, what are added new is highlighted in super detail. And what I would say is, again, do not panic, guys. It is completely normal. What you've just got to remember is that now, when you are in your workplace in the UK or if you're practicing elsewhere, make sure that you are following these standards from now on. Make sure that you're documenting how you are following these standards from now on. So again, just make sure that if you have done anything related to these standards, whether it's maintaining confidentiality, whether it's creating a new confidentiality form for your patients, etc., so that you can put out information about them on social media or maybe even create a bit of a case study for yourself and your team, make sure that you've documented all of this systematically so that if HCPC does ask you for proof of this, when that review cycle comes through, you have all of the information ready and you have maintained your updated standards. The second question I get asked ever so frequently is, Nikita, if I am coming to the UK to do my Masters, can I skip the IELTS step? And in today's video, we're going to clarify it once and for all. So let me be honest. My recommendation about doing your HCPC registration before or after your Masters has been really clear. And if you want information about that, do not forget to check out this video where I've explained why I think you should be doing your HCPC registration before your Masters program in the UK or even during your Masters program in the UK. But again, I do know that it might not be a possibility for each and every one of you. In that case, so many of you are going to opt to try and do your HCPC registration after your Masters program, which is completely fine. It's 100% all right. What you've got to remember though is that, again, like one of my one-to-one clients pointed out recently, was that she assumed that when she came to the UK to do her MSc in physiotherapy at a university, She just thought that she would get HCPC registered directly after the program. And what really surprised her was that her course was not HCPC accredited. Now, why is this? Is that you've got to remember that even if you've done a course from, a university in the UK, you still have to apply for HCPC registration. Just because you've completed the course of your Masters in the UK does not mean that you're going to get HCPC registration directly. But what is the key point over here is that if you've completed your master's degree in the UK, you would have obviously demonstrated your ability to speak English. So it might mean that there might be a leeway for you to use your master's degree as a part of your English language tests in order to get your HCPC registration, and you might not need to submit your IELTS, even though you've got to remember that you might be using the international route. Now again, if there are questions about this, do not forget to drop them down in the comments below and I will try to get back to them. Which brings me to the next point, which is how many of you here are actually students who are planning to come to the UK in September or in January or any time in the next year. If you've obviously heard news or stories about what's been happening in the past few weeks in the UK, I know you would be scared out of your minds to come into the UK as a student, especially if you do not have any friends or family living over here. The riots in the UK can obviously put you in a bit of an uncharted territory, but if it is you as a student who's looking for safe accommodation, let me introduce you to Amber Students, because they have 24/7 security at most of their accommodation sites, and on top of that, most of their accommodation is really close to university and they have super budget friendly options. Now, if you want to get in touch with them or book an accommodation with them, simply check out the link in the description below. Go to get personalized guidance, fill out the form where you obviously need to add in your details related to your name, your mobile number, your email ID, any university details, and click submit. And the best part about that is that once you've clicked that form and send it over, they will get in touch with you to find you the perfect accommodation for your needs. Just got to remind you that most of the student accommodation sites are being booked to nearly 80% at the minute, because most of the universities start their courses in September. So if you are interested in booking a student accommodation, I would just advise you to not delay the process anymore and make that booking through Amber right now. So again, if you have any queries about that, leave them in the comments below and I will get back to them. Coming on to the next question that has obviously raised many eyebrows and has created lots of frowns in the last few months is IELTS. If you are applying as an international candidate, you do need to make sure that you do have some level of English language proficiency attached to your HCPC application. However, there has been a certain update about that. So as you can see on your screens right there, IELTS 1 skill retake is now accepted by HCPC, but there are a few conditions. The first one is that you only need to remember that we accept only 1 skill retake for applicants using their IELTS test if the retake is done within 6 months of the original test. The retake results should be provided with the test report along with the original results. These are valid for the same 2-year period as your original results. So you've just got to remember, if you've not done well in reading and listening, you cannot retake both of the skills. However, if you've just done bad in, say for example, IELTS writing, then you can just go ahead and retake the writing test element. Now, again, so many of y'all have questions about which IELTS you've got to use, what are the standards and what are the test scores that you need to use in order to get HCPC registered. If any of this is a question to you, do not forget to check out my entire playlist with super videos on there to give you a bit more information about all of the questions related to English language proficiency and IELTS for HCPC. But that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. But I hope it was useful. Take care.